Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
How are you, Aura?
I'm good.
Very good, very good. So we have like five people here, and let me check the discussion board, discussion forum. Today's we have more than five people. Six people, so we have pretty much. We just need to wait for one more person to join the collaborate session. Okay. So we wrapped up everything about the time value of money last time. One last topic left was like rule of 72, but it's not that important. And the uh, adequate in through the main lecture, sufficient discussion was done. So you just need to go to the main lecture and review it. Um, so we're moving on to the next topic, topic four, which is topic four. Uh, oh, it's here, which is topic four, the bond valuation. Okay, bond valuation. So if you go to, of course, topic four, you will find these two files. So you need to download those files because that's what we are going to be using while we are in this topic. So, but we know already a lot about bond because we talked about bond a lot in the first topic, right? Remember, in ROI and macroeconomy, right? Why we were talking about the bond? Because bond is directly related to uh, interest rate. I mean, bond interest rate is one of many interest rates in the market, right? And the interest rates are there are like uh, bank interest rate, right? There are bank interest rates, uh, int- uh, and interest rate on the bond. And so at the time, we did a very extensive um, talk about the bond. And the first thing we need to recognize is the coupon rate, which is the interest rate on the bond. Okay, interest rate on the bond. It's got a name like coupon rate. Um, and the coupon is another name for interest that the bond pays. And the bond is a debt instrument, right? In other words, uh, there are three entities that can sell bond. So three entities that sell bond are basically, borrowers, right? And those three entities are federal government, right? Federal government or national government, which is called, in that case, is called sovereign bond. In the U.S., it's called treasury securities, but in most other countries, it's called, sovereign bond, bond of the sovereign nations, right? And then corporations can sell bonds, so it's called corporate bond. And then municipal bonds, the state government or municipal government. So here, this is of course, picture of the page from the book. I took a picture of that. Um, and the example being used here was taken from a long, long time ago. Why? But you can tell there are three entities: treasury, corporate bond, municipal bond. Okay, and when you take a look at corporate bond, second column gives you coupon rate, and municipal bond also gives you coupon rate in the second column. But in case of Treasury, they gave coupon rate in the first column, right below the name of, right below, Treasury. And the second column, they show maturity. But other bonds, other types of bonds, shows maturity in the third column, right? And then you will understand, and in the fourth column, they gave price. But in case of municipal bond, they gave two different prices, bid and ask. And you will understand what bid and ask is. If you ever bought something on eBay or sold something on eBay, you would know there's bid and ask. Bid is the price. Bid is the price that the buyer wants to pay, and so they say bidding the price. Bid the price. They bid the price, and the ask is the price that the seller wants to receive. So there will be a difference between bid and ask, and actually in the middle there is a dealer. There's a dealer, right, who intermediates, right, between the bid price and ask price. Okay. And because of those two prices, then the columns were the column for Treasury is a little. But first it says Treasury securities, and remember we talked about this in the already in the first topic. Depending on the entity that sells the bond, you all know that there's Treasury and there's corporate bond and the municipal bond, but also depending on the maturity. And I've been telling you, bond is the term that is reserved specifically for long-term bond. Short-term bonds are not called bond. Why? In case of, and what's the line? Where do you draw the line between long-term and short-term? Anybody remembers? What is the line between long-term and short-term? Anyone?
So long term is more than a year, short term is less than a year.
Yes. All right, you got it right. So you'll get 0.25. All right, 0.25. Long-term maturity longer than 1 year is long-term. Under 1 year is short-term. So bonds are the names reserved for long-term debt instruments, right? So in case of corporate bond, there are two types. Long-term bonds are called corporate bonds, long-term corporate bonds. Short-term bonds are called commercial paper. Okay, commercial paper. So commercial paper is another name for promissory note. You remember promissory note from the balance sheet, right? You remember promissory notes. Promissory note is a payment method. If you actually bought something and paid with promissory note, it's called promissory note. But why does the promissory note come up here in the bonds? Well, companies can sell promissory notes in the bond market just to raise money, just to raise capital, short-term, just to raise short-term capital. You understand? In other words, if they used it to pay for the purchase, that's called a promissory note. But if you sell it in the bond market. You didn't buy anything, you just sell it. What does that mean? Then it's a bond, but it's short term, so it's not called bond, it's called commercial paper. Okay, but for short term, right? So corporate bond, short-term corporate bond is called commercial paper. Now, in case of treasury, depending on a long-term and in treasury, the timeline for the maturity for short-term is 1 year. That's correct. And the short-term treasury is called treasury. Anyone? The timeline for short-term in treasury, of course, 1 year. And then there is, intermediate term, 1 to 10 years. And then there's long-term. Long-term is, very long-term in a way. 1 to 10 years. Normally that would be considered long-term, but for treasury, it is like, intermediate long, right? And then very long-term, which is no longer than 10 years, up to 30 years, right? That's called, so depending on all those, different maturities, the name for treasury will all vary, right? Can anybody tell me what are the names of treasury securities? Treasury security is a collective name, right? Calling all of them, but individual, respectively, for short-term, intermediate, long-term, and long-term, the names are all different. So can you tell me what are these different names? Anyone? Anyone? No one? Okay. Yeah, Aura? Yeah, Aura, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's treasury bonds, treasury, I think there's bill, right? And I don't remember the other one. So it's bond, bill, and note.
Okay, what's in between?
Treasury note.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Aura, so you got another 0.25. 0.25. Yes, treasury note. Okay, from the short term to long term, treasury bill, treasury note, and treasury bond. And treasury bill is, has maturity, it's a short term, maturity up to 1 year. And the treasury notes have maturities between 1 and 10 years. And then treasury bond has maturity between 10 and 30 years. Okay, and so usually, treasury notes, treasury notes have, they come in two varieties: 5-year note and 10-year note. Okay, and then treasury bonds are generally 30 years, right? And then treasury bill has usually 1 month, 3 months, right? 6 months and 1 year. 1 month, of course, 30 days. And also then, 3 months bills are called also 13-week bills, 13 weeks, 3 months. So, so now we see, right? Let's take a look at the second column. The second column for corporate bond and municipal bonds are coupon rates. But the coupon rate for treasury is in the first column. And then in the second column, they gave the maturity. The maturity is February 2013. And then other bonds, corporate bonds, maturity is May of 2016. Municipal bonds, June 15 of 2037. And municipal bonds are generally all long-term. There is no short-term municipal bond, right? Because municipal governments if they borrow money, they borrow on the long term, because the source of remember source of paying back the source of paying back uh, the debt for governments is the tax revenue, right? And so basically, they don't borrow short term, because um, the next time they will have tax revenue will be another year, um, and then you might wonder, okay, for Treasury is February 2013, and then what is that N next to that 13? That N means this bond was originally issued as a Treasury note. Okay, so think about it. If this was 10-year Treasury note, right, and time goes on, time goes by, and 9 years have passed, then now it will have only 1 year left, or less than 1 year left. And when it has less than 1 year left, then it's no longer called a Treasury note, then it is called a Treasury bill. Okay, so the bond, no matter what was the original maturity, right? As time goes, so 30-year bond, Treasury year, 30-year bond, when it has maturity more than 20 years, more than 10 years left, then it's called a Treasury bond. But once the maturity left is less than 10 years, then it's called a Treasury note. And then, although it was born as Treasury bond, depending on how much time is left, then the name changes, right? Because it's no longer called bond once it has less than 10 years left. Then it's called Treasury note. And then when it has no less than 1 year left, then it's treated as Treasury bill. Okay, so what this means was it was originally born as issued as Treasury note, and depending on how much time is left, then it can be called, Treasury bill. But then, how much time is left? I mean, you can tell 2013 is already gone. I mean, it's past. 2016 is already past. So this example must have been taken prior to 2013 at least. Isn't that right? At least the example was as of sometime prior to 2013. And I calculated it because we can calculate n, and by calculating n, I came to conclusion that these examples were taken around 2010. Okay, around 2010. So at the time, this bond has still about 2 years left, two, or maybe less than 2 years left. This bond has like 6 years left, or maybe less than 6 years left. This bond still had 27 years left, right? Makes sense. So now we know that. And then fourth column is last price, right? Then looks a little price. Okay, $91.735. Now, if it is $91, what is 735? I mean, shouldn't it be rounded to 74? I mean, because we don't use anything below cent, right? Our smallest denomination is cent. In most other countries, still. And I've been also telling you, even in Europe, euro has cent portions, right? In France, it's called centime. Now, so that cent portion that's a bit, nagging. I mean, it's not. It leaves you with a little, heavy taste. Leaves you with, not, very. It's And then also, if this, I told you this example was taken in 2010. If it was taken in 2010, this is a bond that has 6 years left, right? About 6 years left. But with the bond that pays 7% coupon rate, 7% coupon, can such a bond be selling for $91 or $92? That still doesn't add up. The story doesn't really add up, right? Why? Again, so think about it. Even the coupon rate is, interest rate. So, and they pay 7%. They say they pay 7% interest a year. 7% of what? 7% of the face value of the bond. Face value of the bond. And does anyone remember what is the face value of the bond? Anyone? Anyone remember what's the face value of the bond? Yosahani, I'm losing Yosahani. I guess she's a connection problem. Oh, Aura, yeah, Aura. You can answer the question. What is the face value of the bond?
Is what 1,000?
1,000. Yes, $1,000. So Aura, you're getting another 0.25. Aura. So yeah, that face value is called also, it goes by many different names: face value, maturity value, par value, redemption value. They all mean the same thing. Why? At maturity, $1,000 is what you get. Okay? So hence maturity value. Also par value, that's par value of the bond, meaning, selling price of the bond can be selling price of the bond can be above or below $1,000, and 1,000 is the par, and when it sells, it's below or above 1,000. And then it's also called redemption value, because at maturity, the company that sold the bond will have to pay $1,000 to redeem their debt, right? To redeem their debt. So that's why it goes by so many different names, but they all mean the same thing. It's $1,000. So then they pay 7% annually, right? 7% of 1,000, that's $70. Of course, in reality, bonds pay coupons twice a year. That means every 6 months, it's going to be half of that. In this case, it's $70, so $35 every 6 months. $35, right? Makes sense? $35 every month. Every 6 months. Every 6 months. So, if that's the case, right? 6 years are left. 6 years are left, right, to maturity. And then if you're getting $70 a year, that will make the interest payment already $420 interest payment alone, right? Isn't it right? Coupon payment alone is 700 400 $420. My tongue tied. $420 interest payment alone, right? Of course, that's not the present value. It's just, a simple sum of all those $70. And if that is even interest alone, the present value of that must be greater than $91. So how could the price be 91? Oh, actually, so here's the thing. Price isn't $91. the way the price is quoted in the press, right? The way the price is quoted in the news media, in the press, it's actually percentage of the face value, percentage, right? Percentage of the face value. So that means the price is 91.735% of $1,000. Then it's easy. Then the price is $917.35. Okay, everyone? Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone? So
Yes.
price is always expressed as percentage of the par value. Okay, so you might say, oh, so the municipal bond, then it must be $975.70. No, it's percentage, all right, but the face value of the municipal bond is different. Face value of municipal bond is $5,000. $5,000. That's the only thing. Treasury bond, corporate bond, they all have face value of 1,000. Okay, and so to find the price, then you multiply this by you multiply 5,000 by 97.57%. I will come to something like 4,600 something. It should. Okay. Now then, next thing, what about the treasury? The price, and I said, they have bid and ask price, and bid is the price that the buyers are willing to pay. Ask is what the sellers want, and then in between there is a bond dealer who mediates this. Bond dealer makes profit out of this by mediating this deal, by closing the gap. But still, even if it is the case, the price looks weird. Why? Because if it is a percentage, what is that colon? I mean, if it is 104.25%, shouldn't there be a decimal point? Ask price is 104.26%, but shouldn't there be a, I mean, if it is, there must be a decimal point, but without instead of decimal point, you see colon. And what is the colon? The colon is that's the weird thing about the treasury. Colon, the digits behind 104 means 104%. So you can tell, 104%, so it's $1,040, 40 something. But then the decimal part, that's actually treasury uses 30 seconds system, 30 seconds. You might wonder, what? What is 30-second system? Okay, 30-second. It simply means 1 over 32, 30 seconds, right? 32, 1 over 32, 30 second. 1 over 32 system. So colon, the colon 25 means actually, that means 25 over 32, 1% times 1%. It's 25 over 32 of 1%. Okay. So the price will be then calculated as the way to calculate the, so here's the example. A beta of 104:25 is, 1,000 times 104%, and 25 over 32%, right? So if you calculate that, it comes to 1,047.81. Okay, and then we can do the same thing for the bid, for the ask price. 30 seconds, right? And why did they, why does the Treasury use this weird system? Why? Are they crazy? No, 30-second system is relatively in the days before. Think about it. Nowadays we have all the information. Stock market data is, at our fingertips, right? What's the, yeah. Stock market data is all at our fingertips. But, think about it. Back in the 18th century, 19th century, even further back, the finance was, even finance started to flourish, during the medieval times. Of course, in the ancient world, there was, always lending and borrowing, right? They made money by lending money. And during the medieval times, the famous, you may have heard of, the Rothschild family. Rothschild family is a famous, family of financiers, and they did, all these banking during the Middle Ages. Since then, they dominated the world finance. But in those days, Middle Ages, Renaissance period, and modern, like 18th century and 19th, they didn't have the technology, of information technology as we have today. So in those days, everything had to the news of the bond market, news of the stock market will have to travel by horse carriage, right? And in those days, literacy level wasn't that high, and the news carrier, they ride horses, basically, passing on the, and there was no newspaper. I mean, very limited. Newspapers came out, around, 16th, 17th century, like 16th something. Benjamin Franklin had a printing press, So even if there were newspapers, the circulation was, I mean, because of the geographic distance, it cannot be like, nationwide. It's generally just a town. It's like a town crier. And then if the stock market news, if they print something in the newspaper about the stock, the prices, and then this newspaper will have to travel by the horse rider, right? And to the countryside where the these aristocrats who have, large manor, and who invests money, but they are far away from the capital, and then the news travels, by horse. So it takes many days if you are far away, in a faraway region, and then by the time the news arrives, it's no longer news actually. And then sometimes, it's not even newspaper. The messenger on riding a horse just delivers it by word of mouth or by simple note, and then they cannot carry so much information, right? They cannot carry so much information. All they can do is So as a way of simplifying the record, they decided they chose 30-second system, and it's quite understandable why. You would understand when if you have a car, right? If you have a car, you all know the fuel gauge. Look at the fuel gauge. The fuel gauge, basically, it will look like this: full, empty, half, and then quarters. Make sense, right? By the time your gauge fuel the needle is pointing to this, then you'll have to refuel, right? But then think about it. First you quarter it, and then first you halve it, and then halve it. Then it is quarters, and then you halve it again. Then 1/8, right? Halve it again, 1/16. Halve it again, 1/30, 1/32, right? In other words, they did it this way. They did it this way. So it's an old tradition. That way, instead of using, but anyway, we can convert it into a percentage. It's not a difficult thing. Um, so that's how Treasury is quoted. Okay. Um, Now, the next column is yield. Yield is, I've been telling you, yield is not interest rate. Yield is basically the return. And we talked about this. There's a difference between growth rate and return, right? Remember scenario one, the house value example. Does everyone remember house value example, right? In the house value example, we have scenario one and scenario two. In scenario one, you bought the house and you use it as your home. So there will be a change in home value over time. The home prices may go up or go down. Okay, and uh, uh, eventually, if you lived in that house for 10 years and over 10 years, um, that's the holding period of the asset. House price from when you bought it and year 10, there will be a change in house price. It could most likely be capital gains. But if you annualize it, that's growth rate. And in scenario two, you rent it out. And when you rent it out, there are two sources of cash flow. One, capital gains or capital loss, and two, the rental income, right? The rents. Then rent is like, if you think about it, a bond and stock, they are like scenario two. Why? Because in scenario bond, you pay like $900 for the bond, and at maturity you get $1,000. So there's a capital gain of $100, and then every year you receive interest, which is like rents, right? So bond is pretty much like house value scenario two. Okay, and then if you think about it, uh, we can calculate the holding period return in scenario two, but holding period return will be much much better than the scenario one. Isn't that right? Because in scenario one, there's only capital gains. In scenario two, there's more than capital gains. So when you annualize the holding period return, I told you that's the rate of that's the return, annualized return. Now, in scenario one, growth rate, annualized growth rate is the return. It's the same thing as return because there is no other thing. No. But in case of scenario 2, return is clearly greater than just the growth rate, right? Just the growth rate. Does that make sense? Now, so the point is, the return, another name for return is yield. So now you understand why yield uh, is different from coupon rate. Coupon is just the interest, it's just like rent, right? But then yield uh, also it includes the capital gain or capital loss, right? That's the yield. And then, uh, so we have yield. Change is the change in price. Also, this is in percentage, okay? Change in price. Um, right? And 2.75% uh, coupon rate means I thought, yeah, of course, 27,050 a year, so half a year, semi-annually, 13 point. Where is that? I believe the change. I put something about the change here. Anyway, so that's basically what the bond quotes are, how the bond quotes are expressed in the print media, right? In the print media, and in online media, it could be more it could be more simplified than this. But in print media, it is like this. In online media, uh, beat and ask maybe just they will use only one, not two, and uh, they may not use 30-second system in in online media, just uh, regular percentage. Uh, but this is how it is on the print media. Okay, so any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? Hmm? Okay, if you don't have any questions, then I think it's about time to call it a day. Uh, so after Thanksgiving, we'll meet on Monday. So have a great afternoon and have a great Thanksgiving. And I will see you guys on next Monday. All right?
Okay, thank you. You too.
All right. Take care, Aura.
Okay,
You.
thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Have a great afternoon, Tristan. Great Thanksgiving, everyone. All right. I'll stop sharing and stop recording.